Do you still think it was creepy given the fact that we had this relationship where there was hugging and touching and we were going to go to Hump Fest and everything?
No.
Yeah.
Like, she had me convinced that I was doing something good because you had no business being in the position that you were in, and that if we got you out of that position, then I would have done, like, I would have been acting in alignment with my ethics.
About a year ago, Rebecca Vitsmun filed false allegations against me of sexual assault and put in a restraining order against me and took me to court. And I went to court. And Rebecca was there and she brought a witness. And I linked to that video in the description. A lot of you have seen it. And a lot of you remember that witness who said that I had touched Rebecca on the back. That witness, a year later now, that witness, Callie, has publicly apologized for her involvement in the Rebecca Vitsmun case and has joined me to talk about her side of what happened in Sacrum Gate. Before I get into this, I want to, first of all, thank Callie for coming on. Thank her for spilling a lot of details. This is kind of emotional. We go to a couple different places, but I think you're going to, I mean, I found this conversation rather fulfilling for personally. So I hope you find it good too. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. People need to know. People, I think, need to see this video because I think it exposes some things about how groupthink gets people to do things that are not true, and how people are pressured to do things that they don't want to do by people who are deranged in some cases. And I think this is the kind of message that needs to get out. So please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And thank you very much. And here we go.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I can. Thank you for coming on and thank you for contacting me. I am really looking forward to this conversation, Callie. And, like I said before, my objective here is to come to an understanding. I want to understand what went on. I'm not here to pile on you or to shame you. I'm not here to do any of that. What I would like to do is come out with a better understanding of what happened, because from my perspective, things were just crazy. And
Same.
yeah,
Honestly, like, I didn't understand what was going on at all while it was happening.
you didn't.
No, like, while it was going on, I was so confused, and I asked a lot of questions that I didn't get answers for. But I mean, the David Smalley interview really demonstrates how Rebecca is in private, honestly.
Mm.
Um, so uh, the way that she would lash out at him for asking for clarity, like just simply seeking clarity because he was confused. I dealt with that all the time, and
Wow.
yeah.
All right, so let's
So
take a step back. Tell me about your relationship with Rebecca, how long you've known her, what you started, and then I really like to talk about the party.
okay, well, what happened? Like, how I ended up knowing Rebecca is I lived in Oklahoma. I didn't know her when I lived in Oklahoma, really, but because I'm an atheist woman in Oklahoma, when she came, on TV, everybody and their grandpa and their dog was telling me that there was another atheist woman in Oklahoma. So, like, and I was like, okay. Because I'm like, I don't really get on with women very well typically. So usually when people are like, oh, look, there's another woman, I'm like, okay, who the fuck cares? But um so that is how I came to know about her, when everybody else knew about her. And then I was doing that atheist show, um way back. Like, fuck, when was that? Like 2014, 2013, 2014, something in there. Whenever I was blogging for Atheist Analysis. I was on secular TV. I was on a show on secular TV. And then I was on Atheist, and I started that Atheist show with my still best friend, Preston. And we interviewed her on that Atheist show. And that's how I ended up being personally connected to her, was because I interviewed her. And then we just kind of were passive acquaintances until I moved to Washington. And I moved to Washington. I was living in Chehalis, and that was a whole fucked off situation, and I won't get into that. But she assisted me in retrieving my possessions from their property because they were trying to bar me from my property after I had left. So I appreciate her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And like while I was living in Chehalis, she came down to have lunch with me one time. We went to lunch together, and that was fine. And then another time she came down to just hang out at the house and smoke a joint together, and that was cool. And then I ended up in Tacoma, and I don't know anybody else. And like, I don't know anybody. I know the person whose house I'm living in. I'm caretaking a house. I'm legally homeless, but I caretake a house, and that's how I have a place to live. But I didn't know anybody, but I already knew Rebecca, and Rebecca wanted to do something, but she didn't know what she wanted to do necessarily, you know, like she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. And I didn't want to be involved in the atheist community anymore. I was very heavily distancing myself from it due to all my own personal, very negative experiences with other atheists. I kind of stumbled into the atheist community and then like very quickly wanted to stumble the hell back out, but haven't been able to get away from it. So I then that's very upsetting about this whole situation for me too, is that I straight up like picked a new name to like separate myself. And then now here I am with my new name.
And it's already tarnished.
Right. Exactly. So I I ended up talking to her about a lot of trauma-informed stuff. She was really interested in the trauma-informed stuff. There's not a lot of people talking. I've been talking about it for years because the research isn't new. Like this, like ACE scores and shit. Like none of this is new stuff. It's just
Right.
It doesn't get a lot of mainstream attention. And anytime it does start to get some mainstream attention, there's always like something that comes up that just goes, oh no, they're just crazy people, and they shove all us outliers back in the box and just pretend we don't exist anymore. So I wanted to do something that could help outliers, that could like raise awareness that people exist that aren't statistically represented. And we also are people. Like we still have human rights as people who aren't statistically accounted for. And so we fall through the cracks of the system. We fall through the cracks of the scientific process because there's no real way to accurately account for us, or at least there didn't used to be a way to accurately account for us. But now we live in the future and we have all this technology, and we have more ways to show that we exist. And so
you're going to do this podcast with her on that.
That was my original, what I wanted to do it about. And then we ended up niching it down to the need show, because she thought that, you know, people needed to be aware of their basic needs. Well, she was doing this other thing with one of someone I'm still friends with as well. So one of our mutual friends, she was doing a thing with him and they were wanting to start a nonprofit. And that's what I was originally involved in. And then, so another thing, I apologized to someone else yesterday because she pushed them out of the nonprofit in a very shitty way. And I was brought into it as the third person. Know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
and from the way that it had been presented to me, it had kind of all been Rebecca's idea in the first place, and the other person wasn't really that, didn't contribute that much. But then that's now what she's saying about me. So in hindsight, I realize that anytime you do anything with Rebecca, she owns all of it. Like you don't like like it's
So
hers.
so
So
she
that's
owned the Need Show. So she you and her had this podcast, and she really took over it apparently.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
how many podcast episodes did you do together? It wasn't very many, right?
I don't even know. Like I'd have to go look. I haven't even looked at this. I haven't looked at it or anything because it just
It
makes me
was like
so
fewer than
angry.
10, right?
Yeah, it was fewer than 10. It was, and we hadn't even finished the introductory episodes to fully introduce the model.
Yeah.
So, and so that's why I was so confused when she was rushing for us to interview you
So tell
because,
me about that. Go ahead.
yeah, we got into a lot of arguments and a lot of fights over that actually because I didn't want to work with you at all. Like I was like, why would I want to do that? I told you the whole point of everything was that I don't want to be associated with the atheist community anymore. Why the fuck would I go and why? That
Right?
it didn't make any sense. I didn't want to. And then I suggested, I said, well, someone that I was cool with at the time, I don't know if we're cool or what. I don't know where we stand because he doesn't really talk to me anymore. And he hasn't given me his platform to tell my story, even though he gave her his. But David G. McAfee,
Hmm.
um, I was like, if there was somebody in the atheist community that I would be willing to bring on the show and work with, it would be him because he's not primarily an atheist, if that makes like he's a secular activist and he's like more focused on like the reason I got into activism was because of him. And um the reason I resonated with him was because he was very much talking about the separation of church and state and things like that at the time, which has always been very important to me. Like I've heavily advocate for the separation of church and state. I don't think that religion should be at all involved in government. And so I was talking a lot in his group and he like encouraged me to become an activist. And so whenever we were talking about like first of all I was like why are we even talking about having guests on the show because we haven't even finished introducing the model. So, but I said if there was someone, it would be him, not you. And because that would make sense to me because he and I are cool. Like he was like the one person in the atheist community that I didn't feel betrayed by. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
So, um he that's so I said that and I said and then she said that you're more prominent than him and I said not currently. And it was like at the time you were not relevant at all. And so I'm a marketing expert and I've gone to college for business management. I've not completed my degree, but I was the I was I worked for Network Time Foundation for 2 years. I've sat on calls with government officials and had conversations about very important things and had to like I've been involved in some very complex and intricate things that give me the experience to have been the one that we should have been listening to whenever it came to marketing decisions and things of that nature. That it just, if I
Or
was,
having
if,
somebody on. But
yeah,
so she was really, really intent on having me on. Was it just because I was famous in her eyes and she knew me, and so I was an easy thing?
I don't know exactly. I kept trying to figure it out. She said that she thought that she could make you understand how you're wrong, and that if she could make you understand how you're wrong, that it would like get to your followers, and that she felt like they need to understand how to better take care of themselves and blah blah blah. And I'm like,
What
okay,
was I
well,
wrong about?
I don't know. Just, I can't ever get, like, can you ever get like a really solid definitive answer out of her?
I don't
like
know. I
like
mean,
I'd never.
she provided some help to me, and she did give me some answers.
Right,
You know,
but I mean,
she's
if you
perfectly
asked
capable
her
of it.
why she's doing things,
Yeah.
like what's the, like, what, can you please explain your behavior to me, because I'm really confused. She can't, then she can't give
Okay.
an explanation.
You invited me to your party in order to get me to come on the show, right?
Right.
Was that
I
the idea?
didn't. Yeah, I think that's what well, I don't, well, she wanted me to meet you so that I would then want to work with you. She thought that if I met you, because she knows that I can get along with anybody, I can talk to anybody, I can sit in a room with somebody I despise and have a totally pleasant conversation, and it be a productive conversation and get from beginning to end without anybody having a problem. So she thought that if I met you and talk to you, that after I talk to you, that I would then want to interview you, which, before she did everything else stupid, that is what happened. Her plan worked in that regard. I did, at that point, I was still like, I was annoyed, but I was like, it feels like I'm going to get dragged into this whether I want it or not. Like, it's just happening. She's like, because she was still moving forward with the communications with you to make it happen, even though I had been very vocal that I did not want it to.
Huh.
So it was very much like, well, this is just gonna, I guess this is what's happening. I'll make the best of it. I'm real bad about that. Of like,
So
yeah.
so at this point in time, I had been, I had come off that big explosion. This was 2019, 20, yeah, this is 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2018. I had come off this big explosion. I'm really, really injured mentally. She comes to me. She befriends me. She lends me two computers.
Mm-hmm.
She gives me counseling that's valuable. We share some moments together,
Mm-hmm.
not sexual moments at all, but good moments together. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm wondering, and this was all before the party, okay?
Right.
So I'm wondering if any of that was real, or if this
I
was
don't,
all just some big publicity stunt to get David Silverman on the podcast.
I don't know. I don't know. I remember when she wanted you to door knock with her and then you couldn't. And because I was going to meet you that day. I was supposed to meet you that day. And then
We did meet
whenever
that day, right? You were in the car.
I said hi, no.
Yeah, we said hi in the car.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
Well,
it's okay.
that tells you how out of it I was from how overwhelmed I was by life, that I'm like, I remember saying hi to you on the phone in the car. Was that it? I said hi to you. I said hi to you over speakerphone. She had you
No,
on
I
speaker.
was out. I was outside the window. You
Oh.
waved.
Oh. Okay. Well, I purge things that aren't relevant. So,
Okay, my brain regularly purges things that are relevant. So
but
um,
yeah, so I just, I don't know really, because I only know what she told me, and what she told me wasn't making any sense to me.
like what?
Like, just her reasons for wanting you to come on the show didn't hold water. Like well, yeah, she did say that it would be good for the podcast to have guests. And I was like, okay, but why him? Why? I couldn't wrap my head around why the first guest needed to be you. And I still don't fully understand. The only thing that makes sense to me is that she just really wanted to interview you, which is fine. There's people I really want to interview. When I interviewed David G. McAfee, I was like a little fucking giggly schoolgirl. It was so, like, looking back on it, it was embarrassing. Like, like, that was so silly of me. But, like, we do that. We're human. We get enamored with people. And for whatever reason. And it doesn't have to be sexual or anything. You just get excited about having an interaction with someone, and then you want it to happen. And so I was like, okay, I was trying to understand her excitement, but I was not, also excited. And I was like, I'm also the co-host. Like, this is also my show.
So, okay. So let's go to the party.
Right.
We're at the party, and I walk by her. Why don't you describe, because I want to know about the incident itself when I touched her on her back. And I want to know what happened, because I went off to she said everything's okay. My memory is she said do you need anything? I said, do you need anything? She said no. And I went off to the backyard. I would like to know about the conversation that followed.
The conversation that followed in the backyard?
No, between the two of you in the kitchen after I left.
Oh, in the kitchen after.
So I touched her back.
Okay.
She's leaning over. I touched her back. She said, I said, do you need any help? She said,
I didn't talk to her. I didn't talk to her in the kitchen. I didn't talk to her about you having touched her back until after we smoked.
Okay.
We went, because you went, it was like, okay, actually, here, let me just demonstrate using my chair what I saw happen. Okay, you are me right now. This is Rebecca. I'm you. Okay?
Okay.
So she's standing there facing me, talking to me, and I was like standing in front of the music thing or whatever, right? And so then you come up and you put your hands on her shoulders, which I recognized from knowing Rebecca that she didn't realize your hands were on her shoulders. She dissociates from her body. And so I could tell from just because if she registers someone's touching her, she flinches. So she didn't see you coming, right? So your hands went on her shoulders, and her face did not do anything to distinguish to me that she was aware that your hands were on her shoulders. And so I registered that because I was then going to see what you were going to do next, because I was aware that she was unaware she was being touched, and that was danger territory, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I better be aware of what's going on from this point forward. So then you go, you were just like, well, I don't know, we talked about, I said like the actual words, like when we first recorded it way back, but I don't remember now. But yeah, so then she goes, like, you're like, oh, do you need anything? And then she goes, oh, no. And then she's like walking away. And as she's turning and walking away, your hands, like one hand goes off her shoulder, the other hand kind of stays on her shoulder. You're going away, hand like lingered in a way that was, in hindsight, possibly not even conscious. But when your hand got to the bottom down there, you did like that before you like
a pinch.
Yeah, it was like your hand did a motion, like a little. It was not a circular motion. I would like it to be very clear that it was not a circular motion. She kept the whole circular motion thing came into things after I was completely out of the picture. So, and I never said that I witnessed a circular motion like she kept going on about on David Smalley's show. Um,
Was it
it was
assault in your imagination, in your mind? Was it
no,
inappropriate?
yes.
Tell me about that.
I felt that well, based on what Rebecca had told me at the time, I perceived that it was inappropriate because I, I don't, I'm, I don't think that people should touch each other as much as we touch each other because of the ways that we are kind of groomed, and because that the ways that society grooms us all to groom each other, it creates this weird gray zone where it could be completely benign, or it could be grooming. Like it could just be feeling it out to see what you can get away with. Know what I mean? And so,
Oh, so I might have been trying to see how much I could get away with by physically touching her?
right. And she didn't register that you had touched her shoulder. She hadn't, she didn't give you any cues because her shoulders were touched.
I don't
So
remember touching her shoulders.
yeah, you did. You came up and like, it was like you were being really playful. You were happy. Like, and so because that's like your hand went from her shoulder, and then it was like you were both turning away from each other because you went back to the living room to grab something, and she bent over to pick up her shoes, and then we all went out to the back patio, and and it was just this thing that happened really quickly, but I did see it. And um later, and then I was like, the first thing I asked her when we actually had the conversation, I was like, were you aware that his hands were on your shoulders? Because well, that was an important variable for me, was whether or not she was aware that your hands were on her shoulders. Because if for you, if if you put your hands, okay, there's a lot of, this is the thing that we were going to talk about that we didn't get to talk about is that if you Google on the internet, like if you're a guy or just like a young person who's trying to figure out how to navigate social situations,
Hmm.
and you Google, how do I tell if a girl wants me to kiss her? How do I tell if a girl wants me to blah, blah? Every single one of those little step-by-step things to do gives the advice to do those like test touches to
Right. See
know
what
what
the
I,
reactions are.
right, exactly. And so I was just like, so in my head, I was like, well, if his hands were on her shoulders for as long as they were on the shoulders and she didn't have a problem with them being on her shoulders, then it would be reasonable for him to assume that she was comfortable with him touching her based on the social narrative, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, based on the social narrative, in my mind, if she was like, if the that was what was the variable for me was that, and then when she said no, she wasn't aware, and I was like, okay, well then he wasn't aware that you weren't aware, and that's relevant.
Hmm.
So,
And what did she say to that?
and then she agreed with me at first. I mean, because things were, I mean, at first, I
When
mean,
did she decide it was an assault?
I don't even really like, it was after you had already approved the episode being released, the one where we talked about it, but we didn't use your name, and you listened to it and you were
Uh-huh.
fine with it. And then
Uh-huh.
we all agreed as a group that everything was well and everything was handled, and now we were moving forward.
Yes.
That happened. And then it was like, I found out that she had like gone a whole different direction with everything. What, when I woke up, like, I just woke up in the middle of a shitstorm that I thought was like, I thought it was like, I thought everything was fine. Like I thought you were still gonna probably come on the show, maybe even. and we would talk about what we were going to talk about in the first place.
At that point, yeah, I was thinking about that too. That was the idea.
And I was like, okay, so we handled that. And I felt like it was resolved in a way that made sense at that point.
It was, and just make sure that everybody knows what happened was she told me that she had been upset by this touch and that I had triggered her, and she did this whole episode where she talked about it at length but did not mention me and did not name and shame me because she knew that it wasn't she hadn't called it an assault yet, and she did
Right.
this episode with Callie, and it was fine, and I okayed it, and it was good. It was a good episode too.
I know that's what's so sad about it is that the show was so good. Like it really
Yeah,
was so good and so valuable. And I worked so hard. Like I've literally like the concepts that we were just like unpacking and discussing in the show are concepts that I've had swimming around inside myself, but like the words just like been too like stifled and traumatized and been in too dangerous of situations to really speak to be able to like put it out there before. So it was like it was like she was giving me an opportunity to finally do something, but the whole time it kind of felt wrong. Like it felt like something was off. Like I felt like I shouldn't be trusting her the whole time. And I just wrote it off as anxiety.
yeah,
Um but I don't have generalized anxiety. I have complex PTSD. And so like yeah, like the anxiety symptom is just your fight or flight response being kicked on. And she like somehow in the midst of all the show and all the crazy and everything that was going on, and um I came to the I, I I got to this point where like I was really screwed up in a lot of the things. Like she had kind of moved the points around, just a little. She was just putting her spin on things, and she was part of it too. And it was like just things got tweaked around, but and at the time I felt like I would be unreasonable to like advocate so hard for it because it was supposed to be an open source work in progress, open to the public even. Like this was like, so it wasn't about just like it was me getting all my stuff out, but then because I was doing this as research as well as like actually developing a model, I needed public feedback. And I can't like I'm not just going to narcissistically dump how I think things work out onto paper and then go tell people I'm right.
yeah,
That's not what I do. So it was supposed to be this very collaborative open source thing that I would be overlooking and would using my education and expertise and consultation with other trauma informed experts and people who are experts in things like chaos theory and category theory and things like that. Like I would then, uh, sanity check anything that came in from the general public
yeah,
to before it would be officially added to the model. But anything that Rebecca wanted to change, she just changed.
yeah. That sounds that sounds textbook narcissistic.
Right.
So so take me to this time. Okay, so um, you wake up the next morning uh, after the resolution video. You wake up and she's like, "Okay, uh, what do you know? What the trigger was to get her to launch the attack? To what
Mm-mm.
changed her? What?
No,
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
So when she
I
called you, go ahead.
I don't. I know that because there was a
'Cause-
lot of stuff happen that was just kind of a blur. There was just a lot of her having a lot of really elaborate meltdowns and me trying to ground her. I'm really good at grounding people. Like I'm really, really, really good at getting people out of the feedback loops and pulled back and like using the right combination of words. If I know what their triggers are and I know what their trauma is and blah blah blah, I can say the magic words to get them to bring it back in.
Okay.
And so I can't remember a lot. I can just remember a lot of me being so drained trying to keep her from going completely off the rails.
Do you think it had anything to do with um, other women who hate me as her friends, other people who hate me as her friends, influencing her to be anti me?
Uh,
Because I'm trying to figure out, I
I
would
mean,
really like to know.
she is very easily influenced. One
Oh,
of the things that well, I mean, where's my notebook? My notes. Okay, here's what this is relevant. Okay, uh, came up in the David Smalley interview. I wrote down complete loss of identity to partner considers Nathan listening to the court audio the same as herself listening to it. She said, I'm comfortable with what you're saying being what you believe, and that's invalidation of hard evidence, and defaulting to Nathan to determine what she thinks. So she said that herself. She
yeah.
very openly said that in the David Smalley episode. So she is very easily influenced by what other people think she should do and what she should think and everything. Like it's not healthy to not read your own emails, have all like
Oh, it's not
everything
sane.
everything filters through Nathan. Like Nathan processes everything on her behalf. And she was having me process things on her behalf like all the time. So I don't think like she doesn't have a lot of independent thought. Um and that's I don't like saying that. Like that makes me sad. I wish that that wasn't the case. But given all of the things that she has said, her 175 minutes almost of talking to David Smalley, and all of the things that she said in that interview, which I was unaware of a lot of what was happening because I kind of like I shut off from it and tried to focus on my own things. I tried to focus on finding something that I could do, that I try to salvage my life plans because she just wrecked them.
Yeah. I know the
And
feeling.
yeah, so I didn't hear that David Smalley interview until several months after it had happened. Um yeah, the other woman that was in court, she very quickly got moved in with me.
Moved
Um
in with you.
yeah, Rebecca like Rebecca decided after the party that me and her basically needed to be besties. And then she started being around all the time. Like she came to Rebecca's family's Thanksgiving
This is
with,
Bree, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So she like very much because she was like, well, she's my best friend now. We became best friends after the party because apparently instead of coming to me and crying to me about how she felt about things. She didn't tell me how she felt about things. She went to someone else. And so I was completely unaware what her emotional state even was the night of the party. And then that I wasn't told a lot about what happened like the night of the party after people went home because like I went to bed with Vanitas, if we're gonna be honest. What happened after the fucking party? Like I went and had a damn good time with Vanitas. That's what I did. So I don't know what the fuck she was doing, okay? And I
Yeah.
mean, maybe that's why she was blowing up someone else, is because I was actually enjoying my life for a while. But
Mm.
um
So
Yeah,
take me to the point where she says, I'm taking David Silverman to court. I'm filing a restraining order against him, and I need you to come testify against him in court. Tell me about that time.
I kept telling her that I didn't understand why she would put herself through the additional trauma of going through that process. Like I tried to tell her that it's an extremely traumatic process, that um the court doesn't care about your emotions. Like you're going you're going to feel invalidated the whole way through. It's That's just the reality of how the system and the process works, is that you are going to feel like utter shit and completely invalidated the entire way through the process. It's
Was there any
going
discussion about, hey, Dave didn't actually hurt you? You shouldn't be doing
well,
this?
I didn't understand. I was like, why do you think I was trying to, because I'm not going to tell someone what they should and shouldn't do, especially Rebecca had like a whole, like she can go around telling her, she won't use the word should though, right? Like she avoids the word should. So you had to be very careful in your language when trying to tell her that you felt that, like addressing a concern. But I did, after I read the screenshots, after I read the conversation that she had with you, I was literally livid. I was so mad at her because in the screenshots of the conversation with you, she invalidated my testimony by saying to you that she felt like I may have gaslit her.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so I told her, I was like, I'm your only evidence. And you invalidated me publicly to the whole world already. There's no, like, what, why are we doing this? But then, like I said, I felt like I had to continue supporting her because, like, the whole world was on her side at that point. I don't like, and my whole career was wrapped up in all the work that I had done with her. And like, what I felt like if she was gonna do it, then I was like, I still stand by my testimony. I just gave it again.
Yeah.
Theatrically, the way she wanted me to do it in court. But but like she finally fucking got what she wanted. I showed everybody and acted out. Oh, no, she wanted me to act out how you scampered away.
Yeah. That was her word. Scamper.
Well, that was my word. I said you
Oh, it was
scampered
your word.
away.
Oh,
I
okay.
I use a lot of good words, okay? Like
So you came up with the scampering, huh?
I told her when I told her what I witnessed, I said, because I was like, I didn't fucking think it was that serious, okay? So I, like I said, he creepy touched you a little bit and he scampered away. Like that's still, I'm like, and that is still a problem. Like, I'm not minimizing it. It's just everything is relative. Like, things
So
aren't so binary, So,
do you still think it was creepy given the fact that we had this relationship where there was hugging and touching and we were going to go to Hump Fest and everything?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and because, like I said, I didn't, before I made my statement that I then had to stick to because I'd already said it on a recording, I didn't know about Hump until after. Like, I didn't even know. I didn't even know about Hump until after. Like,
And tell me about Hump. They
I,
gave you my ticket. They bought me a ticket to Hump before the party, and we
right,
were all going to go together. And then after the party, she decided after after the first thing, she was when we did that first recording, she was fine. She said, "I'll see you next Wednesday to go to Hump." Then things turned around, and she
I don't
said, "Okay,
know.
I'm not going with you to Hump, and I'm going to give my ticket away." So now, why don't you tell people about Hump?
Okay. So, yeah, she just goes, I think it was pretty last minute that she canceled on you, wasn't it? Or
Mhm.
something?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so she very last minute contacted me and she's like, I can't do this. I can't be around him. It'll be way too triggering for me to be around him. Um, I thought that I was okay, but I'm not okay. And I was like, okay, I guess I can understand that. And then so she asked if I wanted to come too, if I wanted to come in your place. And I was just like, sure, fuck it, why not? I guess. Like, if she made the decision that you weren't going to go and there was a ticket, then why not go? Why not go
Right.
experience a thing as a person who's been homeless for 5 years? Why not go
And
experience a fancy white privilege bullshit festival in Seattle? Why not?
and so what did you see? Tell me about the festival. Exactly, right? So what did you see there?
What I
Tell me
see
about the festival that Rebecca Vitsmun brought me a ticket to.
that you didn't get to go. You want to vicariously live hump through me? Okay.
Yes.
Uh, okay. Um, so I wish I could remember more of it, honestly. Like I said, because it was, and I'm not into porn. Like I do adult content. I've been an adult content creator. Like since I was 18 years old. Like basically I was a teen mom. So the instant I turned 18 and there was a way I could make money at home from my computer, I was on that shit. Like, cause I was a nerd. So I had a computer. So like, but I don't watch porn. I just don't, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in it from like an entertainment standpoint. It doesn't turn me on. I'm just, eh. Like, I don't want to fucking see someone naked unless I'm actually going to be doing shit with them. Like, that's where I am about it. But I was like, whatever, why not? It's a thing. It's also, it's art too. So I'm into art. Like all art is art. I was trying to start a nonprofit where our mission statement is cultivating ethically sustainable artistic practices. And I we have a part called Proper Cultism After Dark that is about adult content still being art, like not safe for work art is still art, and that it's
And that's
just
what
as
hump was?
valid. Yeah, and that's what Hunt was. So in my mind, I'm like, just because it's not my thing doesn't mean that it's not valid art. I'm up to go and experience anything that's not going to be directly harmful to me. I figured, I have a lot of sexual trauma, like, but I think I'm like really desensitized to it because of how much I've experienced.
Mm.
So um, I don't get triggered by sexual things so much. Well, I do get triggered, but it's not like a trigger that derails me. Like I can rein myself in and mostly be okay or whatever. But so I just figured why not go? So we get there and the bar in there was called Foo Bar.
Uh-huh.
And that was funny. So we took a selfie in front of the Foo Bar because what was funny about that is that I developed this thing called the Foo Bar, and it's the Foo Bar, and it's the scale of like how fucked up humans are, and it's
Okay.
like it's all equal, but it's just different ways of being fucked up, and like number like number 7 on the scale is Gary Busey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we talked about it at the party. I told you about the Foo Bar at the party, actually. Like
I
we
remember.
talked about yes, we talked. I told you about the Foo Bar, and so yeah, that was hilarious to me that the bar was called Foo Bar. So we took a selfie in front of the Foo Bar, and then um, we smoked weed. We went and ate somewhere beforehand too, and like there were some other people. I don't remember who they were or what we talked about or any of that. Um, and we get to the festival, and we get into the festival, like get inside the theater because they let everybody drink out front because you're not allowed to drink inside the theater because it's adult or whatever. And so we get in the theater, and then so this drag queen comes out, and she's like glorious, and
Well,
introduces the festival. And then we watch these really fucking weird porn films for like, I don't know. Like there was like a pizza humping a pickle while a donut watched or something. Like it was really weird. Like it was I laughed a lot. There was a lot of laughing. There was so much laughing because and like a lot of it was there was a lot of comedy involved. Like there was a lot of humor. So it wasn't like usual porn. And then there were like some like there was like a really beautiful like shibari um thing that was like really artistic and like the lighting was great and all this stuff. But um yeah, for the most part, it was just everybody sitting in a theater
watching
being
weird
very
porn.
polite and respectful because the drag queen let us know right at the beginning that if anybody tried to be a weirdo that they would be yeeted right out of the place. So
Mm.
um like everybody the rules there were a lot of rules and you don't like no photography allowed, like the identities of
Oh,
everybody who
well,
submitted.
I get that. I don't want to get too much
Yeah,
into that,
too much into it.
but
But yeah, it's
but weird porn is. I mean,
weird for it.
the fact that Rebecca invited me and bought me a ticket to go to a festival with her and Nathan to watch weird porn.
Right.
Um, you know, that is the part that she forgot to say before she said, "Oh, Dave touched me at the party." She just said Dave Silverman creepy touched me at the party. She implied that we were strangers. She didn't imply that we. She
Well,
just
yeah,
completely admitted this.
she very, very, very much has hardcore stuck to the narrative that y'all were never friends. So I think that takes us back to what you were asking earlier is like, was it ever real?
Yeah.
And according to her, it wasn't.
Hmm.
um her own words like there that says that it wasn't, and that's just hurtful. And so it's just hurtful whenever you realize that you thought you had a connection with someone, you thought that you found another authentic human in the sea of people who only give a shit about themselves,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
and
and to find out
then
that I was just hunted down. I mean, I felt like I was hunted down. I
I
felt
kind
like
of
I
feel
was.
the same because she like came all the way down to Chehalis. And then there's been a lot of weird that's happened. Like right whenever I ended my friendship with her on New Year's Eve, she very quickly got very, very like nasty with me and was attacking my parenting.
Mm,
She started attacking my parenting and basically accusing me of abusing and neglecting my children.
ouch.
Yeah. So, and then after accusing me of abusing and neglecting my children, Nathan gave me $100 on my birthday because my birthday is January 5th. So New Year's Eve. So Nathan comes over on my birthday because the that lady was living with me, right? And she was using their car. So Nathan came over to like switch their cars, and he gave me $100 for my birthday. And he was like, "Well, we were already going to give you $100 for your birthday, and so we figured we like they weren't accepting that the friendship was over, that it was over. Know what I mean? Like
Mm,
I had said it was over, it was done. The only reason that I was being cordial with them at all was because this woman was living with me. And I was doing it out of respect for her, that it's not her fault that they're idiots, right? So
right.
I was separating, I was separating those things, and then just, I don't know where her brain, I don't know where her brain is. Like, I just don't.
Mm. Does she have anybody around her that was telling her that this was wrong? Was anybody telling her to
Me,
stop? Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I got into like when I told her that she invalidated my testimony and there was no point, that this was just, there was no point in this. What was the point?
Was
Like,
anybody telling her that Dave did not assault you? Was anybody telling her that this wasn't assault, that you should
I mean,
stop because Dave's innocent?
she told me that it was legally assault and that she had talked to lawyers and blah blah blah. And I was just like, when the hell did lawyers get involved?
Mm.
Know what I mean? So
So
I was
she
like,
was
what?
hunting.
I don't know what she was doing. I don't, she's very reactionary. And she will turn on a person like on a dime.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she was hunting. I don't think like I don't like I said, I don't think she's I'm not I don't think she's consciously aware of what she's doing even really.
Mm.
Um because of the things like defaulting to Nathan to think on her behalf and
Yeah.
things like that. Let's see what other notes I have here because I took notes. Um Okay, so oh my god, I have several pages of notes. I only got about 30 minutes into that, and then I was like, I can't just sit here and do that. Okay. Oh, her first words in Smalley's interview express annoyance with having to be on Smalley's show. Um, that is upsetting to me that she is annoyed that she had to be on a show where she was offered a platform to go on and on and on and on and on for 175 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was just like, she contacted Smalley, yeah, like she contacted Smalley being nasty, and then he politely offered her a platform in which to get things off her chest, and she accepted it. So she didn't have to go on his show. And
No, no, no.
she's,
She's trying to play the victim. She really,
well,
really,
yeah,
really wants to be the victim.
yeah.
And what I'm trying to figure out is there, I mean, where's the villain here? Okay.
I
I
don't
mean,
think there is one. I don't even believe in that dumb shit. Like,
well, I mean, somebody
it's,
is saying, okay, I mean, is somebody is saying, let's let's fuck with Dave Silverman, and nobody is saying not to.
I
Nobody
mean,
is saying,
I was saying I didn't understand what the fucking point was. Well, I did say that I didn't think that I didn't like that I didn't like that you were the person in the position that you were in, but I didn't think that I was the authority to decide whether or not you should be in it, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So, um,
So
uh,
how has this whole thing affected you?
it's fucked up my mental health bad. Like it's derailed my PTS, like my CPTSD recovery.
Tell
Like,
me about that.
yeah.
What about this has fucked you up?
Um, the the invalidation of my lived experience. That's kind of what's core to my trauma is that I have my whole life I have just experienced constant invalidation of my lived experience that just I've been involved in so many things and everybody else gets talked to, but no one really wants to talk to me. And that's what happened here. It's like all this was think like I'll say something, I'll put together a good combination of words that can be stuck in a headline or something, and then those words get used and it gets ran with. It just gets ran with to the end of the world as far as they can take it. And no one no one consults me before doing that. And then they're like, "Well, they were your words. Do you not stand by your words?" And I'm like, I I didn't like I communicated with David G. McAfee about things behind the scenes and told him what I have said. Like I didn't say really anything to him that I didn't already say everywhere else, you know. But
So so when he wrote the headlines that says Dave Silverman accused of sexual harassment again, he was talking to you behind the scenes and you were giving him this information that I just touched her back.
yes, I was saying what happened and I was saying I was being toxic. Like, yeah, I was wrapped up in her. She had me so spun up, like just so emotionally spun up and drained. Um, and like she had me convinced that I was doing something good because you had no business being in the position that you were in, and that if we got you out of that position, then I would have done, like, I would have been acting in alignment with my ethics.
And
And
there
I
we
was
are.
like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't want to, I didn't want to, I, wasn't okay with what was happening. But then at the same time, like when she's like poking at my activist nerve, and it's like I hate it, but there's that us versus them mentality within activism. And it's why I wanted to leave. That's why I don't want to be involved in any of the mainstream activism communities, because it's just there. Every other movement is the enemy. And so if they don't belong to your movement, then they're the enemy from another movement, and you need to. It's like war games, and we're supposedly all focused on the same thing, right? Like we're supposedly all working towards the same goals, but we're so derailed by all of our personal bullshit between each other that we don't ever get anything accomplished.
Yeah. And that's the problem. And the personal bullshit really got in the way here.
It did, because I still feel like we could have had an amazing episode that you were on,
Sure.
that
Would have been
it that
great.
I
I
wanted
was,
to talk to you. I wanted to talk to you about the things that you had said about what had happened in the previous incidents. I didn't want her thing to eclipse the incidents already on the table, because
yeah.
I like the root things, the consent things, things like that, like grabbing her hair and kissing her. That made me very uncomfortable. Like things like
Who
that.
did
Like,
that?
no, like you with Rose or whoever, whatever, the other person, the before.
Oh,
There were
oh,
things from the before that I told you at the party that there were some things that I thought were, you know, whatever. Like I wasn't saying I thought you raped anybody or anything like that, but I was like, if we go to the base, like if we just break it down to consent, like was consent weird? Like was the because there's a lot, especially with traumatized people, like coerced consent is a thing. Fawning is a thing. And there's like power dynamics. There's all this weird shit at play, right? It's way more complicated than what everybody was trying, like the narrative that everyone was rolling with. And that's normally my problem with things, is that it's this very nuanced thing, and they're trying to turn it into buzzwords that they can use to pull in more people to their specific movement.
or to
And
throw people out of their positions that
right,
they don't want in their positions.
right, exactly. So it's a pull. It's like it's a retention. You got to recruit, retain, and get rid of. So
So
that's how it works.
why did you come forward, Callie? What happened to bring you here?
I wanted to do this a long time ago. The only reason that I didn't was because that woman was living with me.
Oh,
That's why that's relevant, is that she was here.
oh, and
And
now
now
she's gone.
she now lives with Rebecca.
Uh-huh. So she lives with
And
Rebecca. You're free, and so
well, I mean,
now as you look back on this,
they're again she's again retaliating. And now on Twitter, before I blocked her last night, she said that she was so worried for Bria while she was here with me, and that she's glad that she finally escaped.
oh, good, good.
She escaped from me.
she escaped from you. So be on the lookout for a restraining order. Okay.
I told I ha 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 ha. Bria tried to come back after I kicked her out. I'll be honest. I'm from Oklahoma. I am fucking white trash from the middle of bumfuck nowhere, scream at each other on the lawn and throw shit if you have to get a motherfucker to get off your property if you don't want him there, right?
Right.
Like, but I'm right here in the middle of Tacoma. I went full on. There were witnesses. I can't deny shit. There was a camera in the yard. Somebody could pull up the footage if they wanted to. Pull up the footage and watch me scream at that bitch and tell her to get out of my house. I don't care. Yes, I did it because she had been violating my boundaries, my children's boundaries, my agency, disrespecting the property in which I'm caretaking, violating the house rules, acting like she owned the place. She had I never should have let her move in the first place. The only reason that I let her move in was because Rebecca manipulated me into feeling sorry for her and convinced me that she had nowhere else to go. That wasn't true. The woman has amazing credit and is like currently considering like a $30,000 credit consolidation. Shit was showing up from Amazon constantly, right? This bitch was spending money out the fucking wazoo. She never even bought toilet paper.
Hmm.
Like she bought things for the business. She spent money on our business together, but she never once gave me money to contribute to the household itself.
So
And
Kelly,
it's just like they're already trying to make me out to be a villain because I'm talking now.
yeah. So how is
Like
that
it
going to
happened
affect you?
so quickly.
How will that affect you?
I don't know. I don't know. I just went through a CPS investigation that I have my suspicions of who,
You
whatever.
think Rebecca reported you?
I think
You
she may have.
suspect? Oh
Yeah.
wow. God damn. I mean, I've been to her house a
Based
couple
on,
times. The one thing that I remember is all of the cat puke all over the floor. And for her to sit here and challenge your ability to raise kids, I don't mean I don't know how well you raise kids or her, but
I don't know, you saw my house.
I saw the cat puke and I saw your house. Your house is clean. Her house is filled with cat puke, but that's okay. Um, I really I don't have any sort of information on how she
Yeah,
raises
no,
kids, but my
I'm not
goodness.
gonna say I'm like whatever.
But
They know what their parenting is. They know the reasons that they project things onto me. They know why they get so triggered when I'm parenting my children. They get very. There was a lot of issues with them, the both of them, disrupting my ability to parent my children.
both of
Be
them.
both of them. There was a lot of that disrupting my ability to parent my children. That was heavily discussed in the CPS investigation.
Hmm.
Um,
And so
because
as you look, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
So I'm just trying to kind of bring this to a circle.
Right.
Um, as you look back, um, I mean, on your relationship with Rebecca, but also on the whole thing that you and I had in common, the whole incident. Um, what are your opinions on 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 how it went down? What are you know looking
I
back on it?
don't I don't approve of how anything happened. And like I said, I she just she just didn't care what I thought because she's like, well, it happened to me. My emotions are valid. I'm the one that matters. But I was raped by a Proud Boy last July. Like, and it was very violent.
Right.
And and we didn't talk about that on the podcast. So
And she
I'm
knew.
just she knew. She knew when I went to her and was like still very disjointed and like very confused and hadn't quite like put together what had even actually happened because I didn't remember a lot. I had started a medication for nerve pain was amitriptyline. I started amitriptyline for nerve pain, which is also an antidepressant, but I wasn't taking it for that. But it was triggering dissociation. And so when this happened with the Proud Boy, it was around like right around the time that I first started the medication. So I was still adjusting to the medication. And dissociation isn't something I experience with my complex trauma. It's not part of my coping mechanism profile. So when I dissociated with the Proud Boy and can't remember most of what happened to me, that was because every other time that I've been sexually assaulted, I have full memory of it. I don't block it out or whatever. Like that's some this like I don't do that. I remember I remember the whole thing. I remember all of it. Like my body remembers it. I remember it. I remember the smells. I remember it so intensely. So for me to not like remember a lot and remember like not being able to communicate things, and then I was confused about because like I don't remember how the sex was initiated. I don't remember, like I didn't remember like how bad it was until I could feel my body again, and it took a couple weeks before I could feel my body again, and a couple weeks had passed and I was still hurt. Like I was still like he was so rough with me that I could still feel physical pain and bruising and like damage to my body.
My God.
So, and I told her about this. I told her about this. So, like she knew. She knew about this. And so a lot of times I said to her, "Oh, the being so angry at silent women." Like she's saying things like that. And I didn't go to the authorities.
Oh my God. She was shaming you?
Yeah. And just every collectively, but yeah, she
And she
knew.
knew.
And she says
And she
she
wanted
does.
to be the hero, right? She wanted to take me down because that was representing you, right?
I don't know. Well, she said, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah. So she was basically like, well, you couldn't get justice against the Proud Boy because like the reason I didn't pursue anything with the Proud Boy is because he's rich. Like I don't have any backing to go up against this man. Like, there's no way. I would just be dragging myself through a bunch of trauma to come out the other side being reminded that society doesn't give a shit about me again. You know what I mean? Like, and I
Well,
wasn't gonna put myself through that again because I didn't need that on
I mean,
top of
rape is a crime. You don't need a lawyer to put a criminal in jail. You can
right,
just go
but
to
you have to
the
prove
police.
it.
That's the policeman's job.
I know, but the police are
Yeah.
terrible at that.
Mm.
I've been there before. I have gone to the police when I was
So,
raped in the past, and it didn't
so
go well. It just made things worse. And I've supported other women through the process. Like if they wanted to, the first time I sat in court while somebody gave testimony of their rape as support, I was 14 years old in court supporting a friend who was raped by her uncle over the course of several years. And I went with her as emotional support in the courtroom with
okay.
her. So, and she did her uncle got convicted to like over 200 years in prison or something. But there was that was a really like that was a thing that happened over a long time, right? Like
Yeah.
and I watched the cross-examination. I watched her as another teenage girl, just like me, being asked if she had, dressed sexy to tempt her uncle and all these other, know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why the fuck would I put myself through that? I don't believe in punitive justice. I don't. I believe in
So
rehabilitative justice, like Rebecca claims. And so I don't feel that sending a rapist to prison will solve the problem of rapists.
right, transformative
So,
justice and restorative justice are clearly um, better alternatives than the punitive kind. Uh,
yeah,
but but I mean, I am just I just want I'm trying to get some parting thoughts here, and
right.
I don't mean to change
Sorry.
the subject off of your trauma,
No, you're
uh, which I'm sorry that you went through it, and I'm even more sorry that uh, that Rebecca didn't seem to respect it or seem to chide you for it. Um,
well, it was
I
because it's very much if you don't go to the authorities about it, it doesn't happen. If there wasn't an investigation, if you don't have hard evidence, then it didn't happen because they're evidence based.
okay,
So
so I'm just trying to figure out um, where that fits in with hers. Is that what is that why she filed charges against me? Because that made it real?
I think so. In her mind, I don't know if in her mind it made it real, but I felt like she needed to make it real in the mind of others for some reason.
What
Like,
reason do you think?
I don't know. Validation. I mean, we all seek validation, but she was being validated.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, she was surrounded by so many people that were validating her emotions and validating her experience. And oh my gosh, yeah, when I told her about the Proud Boy, and like I said, I was very disjointed and I didn't, and we were in her car and I was in the passenger seat and she was driving and I was telling her, and I was just kind of like disjointedly telling her things about, because she was like, how was your date last night? Blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know he was a Proud Boy before I went on a date with him. I wouldn't have gone on a date with a Proud Boy. I'm not stupid. I know they don't like me. Um, um, but I said that I like I was just telling her what was happening, and I was telling her things that made me really uncomfortable at the time. Like I was telling her things that I felt like were off, so that I could, but like get a read for like I was trying to sanity check myself. Like,
Mhm.
was this really off, or because I didn't have much memory because I dissociated. That's another reason I didn't go to the police, because I wasn't really in a state that I would have been able to formulate a good case for myself because of like the state that I was in.
Right.
So um, I was communicating to her this, and she was saying things like, "Oh, wow, that sounds like he really likes you." Like she was perceiving it all very positive.
You told
And
her that he raped you and she perceived it as positive?
well, I hadn't got to the rape part yet. Like I hadn't
Oh,
got to
okay.
the, because it wasn't until it was like some days later that I got around to being like, that guy fucking raped me. Like that's what happened. Because it was like I didn't want to call it rape until like I don't just jump to calling it rape. Like so because I've been raped, and then because I was married, it wasn't rape. Know what I mean? Like I was in a marriage where like
But
I
this
was
was
so
actual. I
right.
mean,
Yeah. But it's
yeah.
like because of my trauma and because I was dissociated and because I felt like I didn't remember, like maybe I did give him consent. I don't know. Like
That's a big deal. That's a big maybe.
exactly. Exactly. Like maybe I did. But then after I communicated with him, it was after I talked to him that it was obvious that he raped me, because the way that he responded to me, being like, you were really rough with me. I'm like, like said that I didn't really remember a lot of what happened, and that Um, what I do remember, he was really rough with me. And where did he get the perception that I would want that? Like,
Uh-huh.
like there wasn't a conversation, like there wasn't like a BDSME conversation or anything. I'm not into that. Like I'm not in the life, I'm not in that community. That's not, I'm like, so where did he get the idea? And then I said at some point, at some time, a long time ago, that, so this is like, he knew who I was. Um, I had said several years ago that I can enjoy being mindfully dominated
And
sometimes.
that's why he dominated you.
And that's why he dominated me.
Okay. So,
Because I
so
said,
did you tell him no? Did you tell him to stop?
I told him that I did tell him he was hurting me at one point. Yeah. Like there were definitely points. There was a point. Oh my God. Okay. I posted on Facebook about this after it happened and like being really conflicted about what happened. And because he held me, the sex stopped for a while and he held me while I cried. I
Okay.
cried. I cried for
You
like blubber cried, like full on PTS, like CPTSD meltdown, cried. And he went to CEDU, that one that Paris Hilton went to, that
uh-huh.
the weird school in Utah. And he like, he did like the shit that they do to CEDU, like in CEDU, like when like someone is like being all triggered like that, he like did the like the bear hug contain me thing and like the whisper in my ear and like the he did that to me. And so it fucked me up because I was like, he's comforting me.
Hmm.
What the fuck is happening? Okay. So, and then I'm like,
So it's
it was,
possible that he doesn't think he raped you at all, right? It's
I
possible
don't know.
that he thinks it was completely consensual and
It's,
maybe
yeah,
even
it is
tender.
possible that he is so screwed up from his upbringing and being in that school, and he wanted to see me again after it. He wanted me to come and watch the surviving CEDU documentary with him, and I told him that I wasn't comfortable being around him again because he was so rough with me, and I still hadn't processed what happened. Like I said, I didn't feel safe being around him yet. Like I was like, I need to like, and then he was like really pressuring me to be around him. And there's like gun stuff that I remember. Like he was supposed to kill me.
What?
He was like, his whole reason for going on a date with me was to kill me.
Why do you say that?
Because he was a proud boy. But then
Uh,
he
and Proud
remembered,
Boys, just
don't
because he
like,
was a Proud Boy, he wanted to kill you
he doesn't, they don't like me. I pissed them off a lot.
personally. Personally.
Personally, the whole organization does not like me.
All right.
So, like I said, I wouldn't have gone on a date with a proud boy had I known he was a proud boy. But I met him on Tinder. He was playing the role of a liberal feminist man. And then after I met him and all these things happened, that wasn't the case. Like that wasn't who he was. And then, but then he like told me all this stuff. Like he told me about CEDU and he told me, and then he wanted to watch the documentary with me. He was like really hardcore trying to trauma bond with me. And then he was like talking about wanting me to be his girlfriend and like that like I made him feel emotions that he never felt and that like it was like he has like a from being in the Sea-Doo crap, like me crying, like the me crying and him holding me and me crying and blah blah blah, like that. Like he really liked that and he wanted to be there for me in that way more, and all these really screwed up things. Like, just, it was just a really really screwed up thing that I was experiencing.
And
And it was just kind of like we just kept on with the show. This was going on, and we just kept on developing the show, and I just kept on working like things were normal. I was dealing with this as a thing that was happening in my personal life. And um
so, I mean, it's hard for me to hear you call that rape. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
it's
I
hard for
don't
me
know
to,
what it was.
because I've been
He
falsely accused of rape,
Yeah, I know that.
and and you know, I have been falsely accused in retrospect. One of my accusations was, oh, I think I was too drunk. I believe I was too drunk to consent 7
Right.
years, and
Yeah,
and,
my
and
thing
and
is
people
I
call me
don't.
rapist because of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because
And
I don't remember what's like. I don't remember the sex initiating, if that makes sense. Like,
you
it
remember
was.
ever telling him to stop? Ever telling
I
him
don't
no?
remember the sex starting. Like, I remember the middle of sex. Like, it was just, and I remember feeling like I wasn't safe to stop him or to do anything about it. Like, I was
Did
in.
did he tell you that you weren't safe to stop? Or see, the problem is,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
He
I
brought a
really have
gun
it
beside the
triggers
bed.
me. What?
He had a gun on the floor beside the bed.
Did you feel that he was going to use
Yeah,
it on you? You
yeah.
felt threatened? Did he did he tell you that? Did he motion that? Did he actually say
He
it, or
did
was
pick
there
it up
just
at
a
one
gun?
point.
And
He
and and was it
he
threatening the way he did it?
he picked it. He picked it up, and he like jokingly pointed it at me.
Okay. And did you feel that you couldn't say no to sex with him because of that?
I mean,
Really?
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I felt. I mean, I mean, the sex was already happening. I fawn whenever things like I'm a small person. I'm a very small person, and he's very much bigger than me. Um, I I will I can't, like, if I can't fight a person off, I'll just let them do what they're going to do until it's over.
So how are they supposed to know that they're not supposed to do that?
Well, like I said, I can't remember how the sex started, but I do remember that I I because he was hurting me, and then he like calmed me down, and I was like really fucked up. I was all fucked up because of that medication. Like I said, like I was all like I didn't know how to
Yeah.
process. I
Yeah,
didn't know how to,
you had some real
but
chemical things going on in there, huh?
right, I was dissociating for the first time in my life.
Mm.
And he
And
triggered the dissociation. But this is the thing, is that in the Sea-Doo thing, like all that weirdness, they know how to trigger dissociation in each other. And like they learn how to trigger dissociation in each other in order to comfort each other.
do you believe he did that to you?
I feel like that might be what happened, because like I said, I've never experienced anything. I thought he drugged me.
Mm. But
I thought he drugged me.
you were on your brand new drugs though.
Right. Well, see, because
Yeah.
yeah, so I thought at first I was like while I was going through it, I thought I was like that he drugged me, and I was like replaying while the stuff was happening. I was replaying what had happened, like while I was like in my own head while he was doing things to me, like replaying what had happened that I could recall from in the night. Like, at what point would he have been able to drug me? Like, did like what, like roofie me or something, like at what point would would something have happened that would make me be in the state that I was in? And
Well,
so I was trying to sort that out, and of like what is even happening inside of me, because I have to figure out what's happening inside of me before I can determine what I need to do externally to get myself out of the situation that I'm in, if that makes sense.
And I completely understand that, and I support you in going through this. And I
Yeah.
hope, I mean, from
And
what
like
you've
I said,
described to me,
I didn't pursue him criminally, but like it was the messages between us, the last message that he sent me. I sent the very last message that he sent me was a very long like legalese. I said that he hurt me and I didn't feel safe being around him, and so I wanted to wait, and like I needed him to give me space because I
yeah,
was, and then so I said I didn't want to come to his apartment and watch the documentary, and I needed space to process what happened because it was a really like I was having a lot of really conflicting mixed emotions about what had happened. And then he sent me the big long legalese, and then after that is when I found out he was a Proud Boy. So I found out he was a Proud Boy after he sent me legalese and blocked me.
and how did you find out he was a Proud Boy?
By Googling him, like looking him up, like actually looking him up, like I should have before I. Well, I found out. Okay, he sent me like while we were talking, like when we were like before we actually went on a date, he sent me like videos and pictures of himself and stuff at work, and like pictures of things that he was doing. So I found out where he worked and stuff like that. So, like, if I
and
would like,
and
I just
after you
looked.
found out he was a Proud Boy, then you started thinking that he may have raped you.
Right. And then the gun being there made sense. And like when he brought me home, because he brought me home and he brought the gun, he was like, I'm bringing my gun with me because I don't like your neighborhood. And I was like, okay, I live in like the nicest neighborhood I've ever lived in my life. So you're kind of a coward. All right. But um, so I was kind of like, okay, why are you bringing your gun? That's silly. And but then when he was like letting me out of the car, he put his hand on his gun when he was letting I was getting out of the car, and he said, "So you're not just going to disappear on me, are you?" And that was a thing that like it happened, and it was like I was like, "Okay, I've had men do like I come from a really fucked up place. Like I have been through some really fucked up shit. So like that is actually pretty normalized for me, like that sort of stuff, men like being that way towards me, like intimidating me with weapons, and like that was like it's kind of like, okay, this is some shit I've been through this before. So it was like, or was his
I
hand just on his gun, because that's what they'll do. I've been gaslit so many times by
I can
men.
tell. I can tell that you've been gaslit, and I can tell that you're reeling from it, and I can tell that you're having trouble understanding what truth is, and
Yeah,
I
and
can
that's
see
why
that.
I was like, I'm not going to go to the authorities.
And
uh,
that was responsible, because I mean, from what you've described to me, and because I've been falsely accused of rape, it sounds like there's a whole lot of chemicals going on in your brain. It sounds like there's a whole lot of things going on, and it sounds like, I mean, it doesn't sound like this guy raped you, but I mean, I
Well,
wasn't
it was
there, but
the things he said in his legalese that he sent me. It was
he's
the
probably afraid though, right?
I don't know.
Because you told
I
him that
don't know.
he had hurt you. You told him that he had
Yeah.
hurt you. Maybe he was
Right, which
afraid.
was true. Like,
Yeah, well, I'm certainly.
yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's just like,
nobody is
yeah,
supporting
so
any
I
sort
mean,
of
but
violence
it's
and
just
sex
like,
that's not consensual. Nobody is supporting that. I'm sorry for
right.
that. Holy cow, that's bad. But
Yeah,
my point is that I hope you won't levy the word rape at him without seriously considering
no, I won't
whether or
use
not
his
it's true.
name. Like I
Okay,
know that well, like the way that my brain is categorized is not consensual sex. Like I
well, that
wasn't
is rape.
right. So from a trauma standpoint, for me internally, for the way that my system is going to categorize that experience, that
I
I
see.
I wasn't consensual. No, I didn't have the ability to be consensual
Whether he knew
because
that or not, or whether he
right.
was, yeah,
Well, so and for me internally, for com- complex trauma, the way that it works is that's the category it's in there with my sexual trauma. And it was sexual trauma, whether it's rape or whatever. Like he
Right.
he saw me say in an interview at some point some years ago that I, first of all, he did not disclose to me that he knew who I was before he met me.
All
He,
right. So there's obvious some seriously deception going on here. Maybe he
right, it was.
was. Yeah.
And he was a proud boy posing as a feminist on Tinder. Like,
That's weird.
they do that. They be up to that shit. That's why I don't like them.
Uh,
That's why
well,
I
look,
don't
I
like.
have kept
That's
you
why I
on,
don't
and
use Tinder.
I have kept you on here for
No,
an hour and a half,
no, you're fine.
and so Callie, do you have any parting words before
Um,
we get off?
just, you have to be really, really, really mindful if you are going to get the system involved in your life. Like, if you're going to go out and just like ask them to come in and like be involved in what you have going on. Like you said, like you're like you feel that I was responsible in not pursuing charges against the Proud Boy given the what the fuck of it all. Okay, well, I would be more justified in going to pursue charges against that Proud Boy than Rebecca is to be pursuing charges against you for
Oh, sure.
no, like, so the relativity of it all. So I feel like people need to be considerate. They need to respond to what's happening instead of just reacting, and they need to make a conscious effort to react less and respond more. Um, and that's from a trauma informed standpoint, because it's not good to be a traumatized person and to wind yourself up and to wind up the people around you. That's called trauma bonding. And you trauma bond and you re-traumatize yourself and you re-traumatize everyone involved when you're doing that. And like, I can talk about these things, like it does trigger me. I'm triggered right now, like but I've kind of existed in a state of being triggered because so many things are triggering. Like, because of the Proud Boy, I'm triggered by potatoes. That's funny. Like, I laugh about it now a little bit, but he gave me a book about potatoes. So I'm triggered by potatoes now. But like, it's just trauma, it's very serious, but it's also very ridiculous and nonsensical because we're humans and everything about us is kind of ridiculous and nonsensical, and it doesn't make any kind of logical sense because nature doesn't make logical sense from a human perspective because it's beyond what we're capable of understanding. And when we try, we need to not be so harmful in the ways that we go about seeking clarity of what's going on in the world and our lives, personally, professionally. Just, it can't be about seeking revenge. It has to stop being us versus them. It can't be about a movement that you're involved in. It has to be about humanity as a whole and what human rights are. And like, it would be great if we could get a movement that could just stick to that, but we need individuals being individuals working towards common goals. We need to stop this bullshit that makes us all infight constantly.
Last words about the case?
I got the case. Ugh, fucking ridiculous. I don't even understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, I just can't wrap my head around how she came to the conclusion that that was the best way to move forward for her own well-being. That's the thing that gets me, is that I was so hard trying to advocate for her well-being by trying to explain to her how traumatic it would be to put herself through that process, and that it would be more trauma. And and she said that she very much blew it off as if it wouldn't be such a big thing. It's just go to the building and fill out the paperwork. It's not that hard or whatever, right? But she obviously learned that it's not just that. That's not all. It's not that easy. It is a very, very emotionally draining, physically draining,
and unethical because it's wrong.
and unethical. And yeah, the whole system is unethical. Like it's just, and it's all of it's unethical. Like there's nothing. And so it was in direct contradiction with our teachings, and that's what upsetted me the most. That's what made me so upset by it, is that we were supposed to be standing for something, and we were doing the exact opposite of what we were supposed to stand for.
All right. Well, Callie Quicks, thank you so much for your public apology. I accept your apology, and thank you for coming on the show and enlightening me. Um, I wish we'd had a better experience. When we were
Yeah,
talking at the party, I thought you were kind of cool,
yeah.
and I really enjoyed it. And that horse that we made on the wall
Oh my
was
gosh, yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
It was
Um,
fun. We had a
yeah,
lot of fun. And I made a post the day after, like, I made a post saying that I didn't, like, that I appreciated you at the party, that, like, it wasn't negative. Like I didn't want this to ruin the whole experience of the party for everyone, because there was a lot of positive in the party. There just really was. Like, there was so much positive. We did have a lot of enjoyable moments. Like, there was great, authentic human interaction. And I hate that that was all invalidated by this.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Kelly. I got some closure here, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time and effort.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for giving me the platform that my supposed friends wouldn't give me.
yeah, oh, my pleasure. And I hope that your supposed friends and uh, I hope they come through. And I hope that I'm just going to say this. I hope that the other women who've made accusations against me, come through and come forward. I'm not going to press any charges. I'm not going to file anything. I just would like my slate cleared as much as possible. So thank you, Callie, for trailblazing that, and I appreciate you, and I wish you well.
All
And I'll
right,
talk
yeah.
to you. All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
so
You have a
much.
good one.
You too. Bye bye.